Good morning. So a couple weeks ago, Peter says to me, when we get to London, I'm going to try out this accent I've been working on. And I didn't know he could pull it off, but congratulations to Peter on his diligence and preparation. With our time today, I want to talk about three things. I want to do a quick review of today's digital world. I want to then introduce a concept that we call the massively interactive enterprise. And then I want to talk about how Couchbase can help you become one of those massively interactive enterprises to be successful in the digital world. Sound good? So if I were to tell you that right now we are living in a time that represents more change than the history of humankind, who would believe that? So not everybody, but a significant percentage. It's a pretty incredible statement when you think about it. According to the World Economic Forum, who's an expert on things of economic change, they suggest that we're on the brink of a technological revolution that's going to fundamentally alter how we live, work, and relate to one another. In its scale, scope, and complexity, this transformation is going to be unlike anything humankind has ever seen, which is pretty incredible when you reflect on the history of the world. I mean, 250 years ago, water and steam changed how we lived and worked. 100 years after that, it was about electric power. And 100 years after that, electronics and IT. All fundamental transformations of the world we live in. But this one today is bigger than all of those. And this fourth industrial revolution, as the experts are calling it, is representing a merger of both the physical, biological, and digital worlds in how we live, interact, do business, transact, have fun. And the implications to businesses are quite significant. And before I go into that, what I want to show you is one company, Tommy Hilfiger, who may be here with us today, that's a multi-billion-dollar global fashion and apparel company that is taking advantage of this fourth industrial revolution to change the way that they do business and how they serve their customers. Let's take a look.
We're embracing innovation as we enter a new era, revolutionizing the fashion industry and looking to the future. We're pioneering innovative new technologies that allow us to work smarter, better, and faster. In 2015, we revolutionized the buying and selling journey for our wholesale customers with the industry's first ever digital showroom. What started as a vision for the future became a reality. Today, we have digital showrooms in 13 countries with 24 theaters and 59 workstations. By the end of 2017, we'll have 26 theaters and 78 workstations, from Europe to the Americas to Asia and everywhere in between. But we won't stop there. By advancing the technology, we've taken our digital showroom even further, constantly evolving to meet our customers' needs. We're immersing our customers into our world from the moment they arrive, creating an exclusive bespoke service. We're sharing our brand heritage and our seasonal inspirations so our customers understand the collections better than ever. And we're making it easier for them to take control. In just one click, everything is displayed on ultra-high-definition 4K screens, from product details and pricing to buying history, delivery dates, and more. We're bringing greater ease to creating, editing, strengthening, and perfecting unique assortments for every customer. With the selection process complete and no additional paperwork or admin needed, a summary is sent directly to the customer's personal account. It's that simple.
So it's pretty incredible when you step back and think about how Tommy Hilfiger as a company is completely changing the shopping and buying experience. And we sit back and we look at that and we think, wow, that's very different from the other ways I'm shopping today. That feels very futuristic. But I stand here in front of you today suggesting that in a couple years, maybe even a couple months, when we sit and think about that very experience, we're not only going to appreciate it because it will be more prevalent within other companies that are using similar technologies to create those experiences, but we'll come to expect it, meaning that other companies that don't provide that great experience are not going to meet our expectations as consumers, and we will choose to do business elsewhere. And what that really points out is that this fourth industrial revolution and the implications to businesses are creating very disruptive effects. It's everything from innovative business models to how the world of science is changing the way that we expect our healthcare to be provided to us. John Chambers, who is a very famous technology and business leader, who was the previous CEO and chairman of Cisco and is now a very active venture capitalist, was in a room like this not too long ago, and he actually predicted for the business leaders in the room that 40% of today's businesses are going to fail in the next 10 years. And while 70% of them are going to try to transform themselves digitally, only about a third are going to succeed. Now, John's a very endearing guy, and I think this was a group of his customers. He then went on to say, if I'm not making you sweat, I should be. This is a very real time of transformation, and we have to be very mindful about what that means for us as business leaders and technologists. Now, let's look at some data. According to IDC, 37% of organizations have already started executing what they call a digital-first approach. But 45% of the IT leaders in those businesses say they're in the very early stages of that transformation. Now, what's more, again, according to IDC, is that for 52% of executives that are in these companies, they realize that digital transformation depends on enabling worker productivity. This is using technologies like mobile and artificial intelligence and machine learning to help them enable the tools and productivity of their own internal employees. Now, that's a fascinating concept because up until now, when we explore digital transformation, a lot of times we think about the interface between a customer and the business that we are transacting with, whether it be how we're shopping, how we're traveling, how we're making reservations, how we're playing games online. But this new statistic is pretty telling because it talks about the change that has to happen inside the walls of an organization. And this is a concept that I really want to build on and show you some examples. What all of that leads up to is this concept that I promised I was going to introduce called the massively interactive enterprise. Now, what does that mean? Well, as we go around and talk to customers and partners around the world, what proves to be true is that the companies that are not just disrupting themselves, but being very successful in the changing economic times that we see, are doing one thing and one thing very well. They are using technology to get closer to their customers, and they're using technology to enable their employees. Technology is fundamental to success and prosperity in this fourth industrial revolution. And when we use the term interactive, so often we think about us as humans interacting with companies, but these interactions are pretty complex and go well beyond that relationship. It's about not just humans to companies, but partners and suppliers, suppliers and manufacturers, machine to machine, company to company, and there's this vast web of complex interactions that are very critical for a company to become a massively interactive enterprise. And I want to explore this concept a little bit more today and give you some examples on how businesses are doing just that to drive results for their companies. So, on the left side of the slide, I'm showing what we call interactions. And on the right side, you're going to start to see transactions. What does that mean? Well, let me use an example that we have all become very familiar with, online shopping. And I'm going to go quickly through it because just like the Tommy Hilfiger experience, I'm predicting is going to become more commonplace, the one I'm going to walk through is one that we've come to expect. If we go online, we have a pretty good idea for what we want to buy. Let's say it's a new pair of jeans. We all have a feel for what kind of brands we like. We know what size we are. We know what color we may be looking for, what kind of fit, and we very quickly target the product that we want. And as we go through the shopping experience, we want to get more than just those statistics. We want to see what it looks like. We want to be told what it's paired with. We want to read online customer testimonials on how durable that product may be. Eventually, we put something in a shopping cart. We expect to be told what kind of buying programs we may be a part of. How quickly is this going to arrive at my house? Is it going to be there in time for my next trip? And so on and so forth. And we've all done this probably many times over the course of the last week, depending on the good that we're talking about. Well, Up until that point where I actually hit purchase and I move that item out of the shopping cart, into the, so to speak, supply chain for the company to ensure that it, arrives at my house, all of those touch points and all of the experience that I've come to expect is a function of interactions. And you can see the volume ratio of interactions to transactions. Now, despite the fact that we're in the greatest change that humankind has ever seen, the number of transactions really hasn't increased that much. It's not as if we're buying more, clothes than we did 10 or 15 or 20 years ago. But the means in which we're buying them have changed dramatically. And the expectation of the journey that we have to go seeking that good has changed dramatically. And it's all about interactions. Now, in the example that I just talked through, the interaction to transaction was one of e-commerce. And it was, again, us as a customer working with a company. On average, if you were to roll up all of our activity and our fellow humans around the world, and we started to look at number of interactions per transaction, believe it or not, we see this magic 1,000 to 1 ratio. So for every purchase, on average, there are 1,000 interactions. 1,000 interactions to 1 transaction. And we call that a browse to buy. Now, what's fascinating is if you look at another industry like travel, let's say we're booking a trip, and whether it's an airline or a hotel reservation, we have a lot of common expectations. We want to see videos of everything. We want to look at seat configurations, and all the things we've come to expect. Very similar ratio, 1,000 to 1, and that's called a look to book. And when you start to go across different verticals and different industries, this 1,000 to 1 ratio comes up time and time again. Now, that's pretty compelling if you're starting to design solutions that need to handle this volume of data that previously didn't exist. What becomes more interesting, however, is if you continue to go through that example and think about the implications to a business. So let's take the next step. After I've hit that purchase, what happens? Well, that goes to the company in question, and they need to figure out how to ensure that across their employees, their suppliers, their manufacturers, their distributors, their carriers, that pair of jeans arrives in a timely fashion. And in this example, we have transactions of build orders, enter into inventory, shipping products. And the interactions in this case are not just 1,000 to 1, but 100,000 to 1. Things like factory automation, real-time status updates. And if you're anything like me, as soon as I hit purchase, I'm already starting to do a lookup to see, is this thing on track, or is it going to be there? Is it really going to be there in time for my trip? Well, imagine all of the employees that are doing lookups for their very job to make sure that whatever queue they're working on is getting emptied. So 100,000 interactions to every transaction that your internal systems need to be able to provide to keep you competitive. Now, it doesn't stop there. There's another wave of interactions that become very compelling. And that has to do with things like machine learning and artificial intelligence that companies are investing in to enable the next generation capabilities. This is things from ongoing preventative maintenance for factories. If you have an offering that is connected, how do you manage all of the device data that you're pulling into your respective data centers and clouds to provide the very service that you're offering with those devices? Retrieving information from the various portals that are collecting these vast amounts of data. And in this situation, you actually see a ratio go from not just 1,000 to 1 or 100,000 to 1, but 1 million to 1. So this is the level of data volume that we're seeing happening in this fourth industrial revolution. And when we talk about a massively interactive enterprise, how do you build solutions and technologies and capabilities that allow you to not just maintain this, but use this as a competitive advantage to ensure that you're operating in a more sophisticated way than your competitors, even more so that you're operating a more sophisticated way to create customer experiences that would otherwise be impossible. So let's take this one step further. And I actually want to play around with an example here of a company that we've taken the liberty to make up called Fitco. And Fitco, as the name implies, is a fitness device company that provides fashionable wearables that also enables you to work out and retrieve health information. And in this example, they not only have to, maintain an online catalog and manage inventory and ship devices, but it also, starts to open your curiosity on this machine-connected portion of the value chain, not just highly automated production, but managing real-time device data. And this is a very real example. There's many companies around the world that are providing this service, and I'm sure some of you in the room, may be part of a business that's providing it. But when we then think about the customer experience that's related to this, I can come up with a lot of examples, but the one that's top of mind for me right now are my 3 kids. And I have 3 little ones under the age of 10. And when I explore this concept of that the World Economic Forum talks about the merging of the digital, physical, and biological spheres that defines the 4th industrial revolution, it feels very real and authentic to me as I apply that to them. Because they've grown up in a world where, simply put, that is their expectation. And anytime they're dealing with a digital device that isn't in the flow of their life, they become incredibly frustrated and confused as to why that would be slowing down their experience. And I don't know how many of you have kids similar ages, but wearables and technologies and gamifying activity is increasing with great pace. And so this is a very real example because my kids not only want to participate this and have the social aspect of comparing with their friends, but like kids have been for the last, since the beginning of time, they have to be fashionable, it has to look right, it has to be, the cool thing. And so they need to be, impressed across the entirety of the value chain. And the demands that they have on right now benefits and exactly what I want, when I want it, are, higher than what we've come to expect. And so for a company to satisfy their needs and, keep a calm house, which is a very good thing for me, I implore all of you to build these things so that we, keep our kids very happy. But these challenges are very real. Now, what I will tell you is Couchbase is helping companies solve these problems today. And what we've outlined are 6 customers that have active use cases in the various steps of what I've outlined on the value chain. So we talk about Tesco and Amadeus in the consideration and preference part of the buying cycle. We have United and Tommy Hilfiger in the build and fulfill portion. And then BD, who I'll talk more about, and Verizon in the operate and service. And so to give you a bit more detail on 3 of these, let's take a look. So Amadeus, a multi-billion-dollar global technology company, has pretty significant volumes that they're trying to satisfy with Couchbase. On that 1,000 to 1 look-to-book ratio, Amadeus's needs are a little higher. As a matter of fact, they have a 300,000 to 1 look-to-book ratio. And so on the Couchbase platform, they have over 600 million bookings processed per year. They're doing 8 million operations per second, and their demands are that 99% of those are fulfilled in less than 2.5 millisecond response times. Think about that. I mean, that is massive volume that their customers, which we interact with, not only have come to expect, but depend on. If we look at the next example, United, the 3rd largest airline in the world, they are trying to get 4,500 flights up and down every single day. And to do so, they have an army of 41,000 employees, pilots, attendants, crew, maintenance. And what they've done to enable that service is built an integrated productivity tool, going back to what IDC suggests companies must do, that creates a single portal of all of these very complex inputs that are dependent on one another, so that all of us in the room, have flights that take off and land on time. I mean, incredible complexity, data silos, different tools, and with Couchbase, they've been able to aggregate that and provide a level of productivity and customer service that was otherwise impossible. And with United, they're just getting started. We have many, many use cases that they're using to continue on their journey of being a massively interactive enterprise. And finally, BD, Becton Dickinson and Company, is an American medical technology firm. And one of the many areas of their business is managing the complexity of diabetes. And it's estimated that this, the connectivity challenges, technology challenges of this particular situation adds up to $327 billion. So how do you take a inherently complex model in a very difficult medical condition and create an experience that your customers benefit from? And what BD has done is built an application that fundamentally changes the way that diabetes patients interact with their healthcare providers, with much more sophisticated information directly from the patient to the healthcare provider and in return. In doing so, when network connectivity may not be as prevalent as we would all hope it to be. And Couchbase has enabled them to build that technology and that capability for their patients. And these are just one of many examples, and I'm sure many of you in the room have benefited from our platform as well. So why do you need Couchbase, and why are we so excited to be here to talk to you about the next generation capabilities? Well, first, if we go back to this challenge that we have in this fourth industrial revolution, a lot of it comes down to the database. We launched a survey about a year ago and went around and asked about 400 IT and business leaders around the world, how are your digital transformation projects going? 90% of them suggested that they were failing, actually a higher failure rate than what John Chambers predicted. And 84% of them pointed to the legacy database as the reason that they are not being successful because of the limitations, the inflexible data architecture, the inability to enable them as massively interactive enterprises. And I would tell you that building a technology anywhere in today's world for the enterprise is very complex. It has to be architected for the cloud. It has to provide a level of scale that the world has never seen. Gone are the days that any downtime is acceptable. You have to have relevance not just in central repositories like VPCs and clouds, but out and including the edge. It's important that we build in intelligence into our technology so we can provide things like recommendation engines and optimization engines, both for front office and back office productivity. All of this has to be secure, and we have to do this at a fraction of the cost of what legacy technologies demanded. And what I'm very proud to tell you is that Couchbase has not only built an engagement database to enable you to be a massively interactive enterprise, but we've done so by solving all of these challenges. And you're going to hear more about that from Ravi in a minute. If we were to break down the business problems that we are helping you solve, it's about improving your customer experience. It's about enabling you to innovate and get to market faster with your next generation applications, all while reducing infrastructure and operating costs. And we're very mindful of the demands that you have as a company, and we want to ensure that we are serving you as a business partner and enabling you to realize these business benefits. Now, traditionally, from our vantage point, there were two types of databases. You had a transactional database and an analytical database. And what we're going to spend a lot of time talking about over the course of today is what we call the engagement database, which allows you to deliver next generation experiences with flexibility that was otherwise impossible. Now, core to our philosophy is that we want to integrate into your environments and enable you to reach this productivity, being very mindful that asking you to rip things out and replace fundamental solutions is just not realistic. And so as we've architected our platform, we've done it with that in mind. How have we done so? Well, we've architected an end-to-end platform. And you're going to hear more from Ravi on what's core to that architecture, and then from Scott on how we're enabling next generation capabilities across all aspects of our platform. But we are an in-memory, shared nothing, scale out architecture. All of this built with the premise that you need to have a data platform that is not just flexible, but blazingly fast and easy to manage. And that's been core tenets of our architectural build-out since the beginning of our company and continues to be our North Star as we go forward today. It is about delivering next generation experiences, but at the same time, providing you the business benefits that impact your bottom lines. Said another way, we take great pride in the fact that we are solving very hard business problems. And I don't want to make light of the challenges that we've reviewed. When we talk about change unlike the world has ever seen, that brings it with it challenges the world has ever seen. But at our company, we have taken on some of the hardest, most challenging computer science problems that are facing the world today, and we continue to solve those in meaningful and differentiated ways, but all with the purpose of helping you be a better company, a better business, a better resource to your customers. And that's what today is all about, that you have a chance to hear from us about those capabilities and engage with us in conversations about future needs that you see that we can be mindful of and incorporate into our future thinking. Our mission at Couchbase is to be the data platform that revolutionizes digital innovation. And the reason we get up and work so hard every day is because of our customers and our partners. All of what we do is in support of what you're after, and it's very motivating to us as a company and allows us to hold ourselves accountable to be one of the best technology companies on the planet. And if that sounds ambitious, it is, and we are very excited about that ambition and excited about where we're going as a company. Today is all about our ability to articulate that to you, get you to share in that excitement as we continue to build business partnerships. Thank you for your time this morning. Have a wonderful day at Connect, and appreciate you all being here.